Welcome to CVC Interviews. My name is Joyce Vaudreuil from Vernon, and today is another in our series of getting to know the people and what they do in our local communities. Today I'm talking with Joyce, who is from Imagine Main Street.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, what exactly is Imagine Main Street?
Well, I guess you could probably give that 1,000 different answers. However, simply, it is a series of little small festivals. The first Thursday of each month, May through September. And this happens in downtown Manchester. So what we did 6-7 years ago is start a conversation about what we could do to make our downtown more vibrant, more community-oriented, more engaging. Because there was a time back in the day when going downtown was the place you went to shop for your retail, for your clothing, for going to the bank, for going to stores of all different kind. And you know, downtowns have pretty much changed since the invention of the mall. So that happened in Manchester, and Manchester downtown got a little quiet and got a little empty. So over the years, it has picked up a bit, mostly with restaurants. But we wanted to see how the arts could change the way people view their downtown. Now, if you know anything about Manchester, you will know that it's very famous for a very large road race each year on Thanksgiving Day. They also has a wonderful event called Cruisin' on Main in August. And so the whole entire downtown is one long strip of antique cars and hot rods and the whole bit. And thousands of people come down for both of those events. Imagine Main Street's a little smaller, so maybe 2 or 3 or 5 blocks of downtown, you'll find vendors, crafters, people who are original artisans, people who make their own candles, their own jewelry, their own paintings, photographers. And then we'll have a series of musicians up and down the street, different kinds of music, sometimes dancers, sometimes poets, almost always some kind of very large puppet walking up and down the street to attract attention. So it's a series of programs to bring people downtown to enjoy an evening. Usually starts at 5:30 and ends by 8. People can eat while they're downtown or wait until it's over and eat when they're done. And it's a great gathering of people of all ages and backgrounds and economic strata. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful event.
It sounds wonderful. How did you personally get started?
Well, I was part of the original conversation. I've lived in Manchester since 1972, straight out of high school, and have made Manchester my home. And we started, they brought people together and just said, we want to hear what the community thinks about what can revitalize downtown Manchester. I'm very much into nonprofits. I've always worked for them. I work for the Hartford Symphony now. I've worked for the American Lung Association. I worked at Cheney Hall. So Manchester has been a big part of my life. So seeing the downtown blossom again benefits my community, benefits where I live, the value of my home, where people want to come and enjoy being there. So everything you do in your community benefits you in the long run. So, and I love the arts, obviously. So this was a great opportunity to be a part of something that was coming from the roots up and volunteer driven, which is always really wonderful, and very supportive of downtowns. And I just have a real love for downtown living and downtown activities.
Wonderful. I was on your webpage, which I do encourage everyone to. If you have a moment, please check out their webpage, Imagine Main Street. They have activities going on from May through September. Mm-hmm. And I was just talking to a little birdie told me that you're doing something focusing on the youth yeah. that are artisans and musicians.
Right.
So what would you like to tell the audience about that, about sure. recruiting and what type of event you're inviting them to?
Yeah, indeed. Every month of Imagine Main Street's a little bit different in terms of theme mm-hmm. and in terms of what portion of downtown we're using too. So it's important for people to know.
The location changes. Yeah. I'm
yep.
sure all the businesses are happy now, so it's not always the same block.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's like a movable feast. And as a matter of fact, in the month of July, we actually go inside Central Memorial Park. So we're not on Main Street streets at all, but the park is on Main Street. So it's still doable. It totally makes sense, but it kind of brings everybody together in one space. So again, they're all a little different. But we like to start off the year with young people. Excuse me. Because number one, in May, they're still in school and they're still working on projects, and they may have completed art projects by that time, and musicians will have had a full year of practice and rehearsal in their groups. And a poet may have been working on a poem all year long. And finally, at the end of, we get close to May, that's when the kids start having their recitals, and they have their band programs and all those kinds of things. So it's a great time to get kids that have kind of accomplished whatever their art is. So we've had young people who bring down their guitar and their drums and they play on the street. We've had kids that are artists and they bring out an array of their artwork from a full year, and they just either showcase it or they even sell it, so they can be making money. We've got kids that are wonderful jewelry makers or pottery, all that kind of thing. So we encourage them to come. But there are a couple of things that happen. Youth Night is really focused on young people up to the age of 18.
Okay.
So there is on our website, which as you noted is imaginemainstreet.com. That's important to know. It's com, not org. And there is a form on there that we need their parent or guardian to sign. Okay. So if they'd like to participate, we need to have that in our hands so that we can figure out the best location for them. We don't want people just to show up, because then what happens is I'll get somebody playing a nice quiet guitar next to somebody with an amplification. So it's all very strategically placed so that it's evenly balanced. You don't have jewelers sitting next to other jewelers. You don't have, a band sitting next to a performer. It's all over the place, and we take a lot of time and energy to make sure that everybody gets evenly seen and heard.
So would an artist who was not a child, would they be able to also participate?
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of the ways you manage it is by the registration.
Exactly.
I see.
So if we get one kid, one young person that comes down, it's still going to be a youth-oriented night. Because what happens is a lot of our vendors will then say to themselves, well, if there are kids involved, that means young families are going to come down. So maybe instead of you have people that will make aprons, instead of making aprons, they'll make baby bonnets or something fun like that. Or a person that makes natural cosmetics won't focus on their adult cosmetics. They'll focus on baby lotions and things like that. So our vendors, our regular vendors, do give some consideration to the audience. And that really helps an awful lot for it to be successful and different every month.
Different every month, yet every year they can count on it and say, oh, next year I'm going to do this.
Right.
Or next year I'm going to bring additional people, more supplies.
Right.
And you do all that in a 3-hour period.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you would say, why would they want to drag all that stuff down for that period of time? But vendors like the frenzy of it, kind of. There's a small amount of time that they know people are going to come down there. They're not going to sit there all day long for 15 people. If they sit there for a couple hours for 15 people, it doesn't feel quite as bad. But every month is different in terms of the size of our audience. Excuse me. And sometimes we have hundreds of people come down. June is an especially busy month because it's very traditional, called Strolling on Main. And that's been happening for years in Manchester, long before Imagine Main Street existed.
Oh, is that kind of like Fred Astaire and Easter Bonnet type thing?
Kind of. It was a reflection of what happened back in the day in Manchester when everybody would come down on Thursday night and stroll, and you'd see your friends, and you'd have a cup of coffee, and you'd go to the bank, because back then everybody got their check and would have to take it to the bank to cash it.
I remember those days.
You do?
Oh, yes.
And, Manchester downtown had some very interesting stores. When I first moved in 72, there were at least 3 kind of like variety stores, which you don't see anymore.
No.
Now they're both restaurants now. So, those of us that have lived around there for a long time, we remember when there was a drugstore. We remember when there was an S&H green stamp store. So we remember those things, but it's kind of fun for people that have lived in Manchester a long time to come downtown, go into those businesses and say, I remember when this was Marlowe's, or I remember when this is Fairway. They remember those things, but they can enjoy a new kind of retail. It's on a table, brought in a pop-up, store is right there.
Etsy Live.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
so
people have a really good time. They really do enjoy it. And the thing that's important for your viewers to understand is these are all original artists, original makers of their product. We don't have Avon, we don't have Tupperware, we don't have LuLaRoe. LuLaRoe. I don't even know what that is.
I don't
People
think I'm
ask
their
me that.
target
It's some
audience.
stretchy pants or
Yeah,
something.
that's not really.
Yeah, we don't allow for commercial product,
Okay.
but we will allow businesses to come down as long as they pay us a fee and they do some kind of arts activity.
Attached to
So
it.
we've
Sure.
had like Kinetic Hair wanted to come down and get their product out to people, and we thought this is okay as long
Yeah.
as you do something that's artsy. So they bring down coloring sheets for the kids,
Oh,
or
yeah.
adult coloring, pages, like a lot of adults are doing these
sure.
coloring and things. They'll do all kinds of fun things, and so they make it enjoyable in a way too. Yeah.
So even though the location is Manchester, you want to draw in artisans and musicians and also an audience from all over Connecticut.
Of course, of course.
So anybody can you don't have to be in Manchester in order to be a participant.
Oh, golly, no.
Yeah.
No, we get participants, vendors come
Yep.
from all over the state of Connecticut, even southern parts of Massachusetts.
Oh.
So they come in. It all depends on the timing. And for them, it's a place to sell what they're going to sell. Even our committee members don't all come from Manchester. As a matter of fact, 2 of them come from here in Bolton.
Oh,
So
excellent.
there are people that have an interest in this, and that's the important part. So, and our folks that come to the event come from all over the place too. So that's really great.
So once again, we're talking about local events for local people, local news.
Yep.
Everything's local.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a break for a moment, and when we get back, we'll talk more about the other months and the other events. But until then, stay tuned. We'll be back with Joyce from Imagine Main Street.
Using Powtoon.
Hi, and welcome back to CVC Interviews. I'm here talking with Joyce from Imagine Main Street, And what they do is get people involved with their local community. You get to meet your local artisans, craftspeople, and musicians. Before the break, we were talking about the different vendors and how would someone go about signing up if they were a vendor other than a child. Explain the steps involved.
Sure. I mean, it's basically pretty simple. They go to our website or they can contact me, and that's the important part is that go to the website and you'll see the application. It will be very clear. And they just, click on that, print it out, sign it up, and send it to me in the mail. They can also just send me a note at info@imaginemainstreet.com and ask for an application. It's really pretty simple because the form gives them an opportunity to say which month they want to be there, what they're going to sell, what kind of setup they bring. Some people bring a table, some people bring easels, some people bring a little tent that sits over them. And then from that information, I can figure out where to place them on the streets because a tent is only going to fit on a very broad street. Mm-hmm. We can't, because the fire marshal and all that kind of stuff, we can't close off streets. We can't block pedestrians from being able to walk. So it's kind of like sitting with a jigsaw puzzle and putting the pieces together. But our vendors are wonderful. And a couple weeks before the event, I write to them all and say, this is where you're going to be. This is what time you should show up. And this is the name of your block captain. And this is a way for us to get our downtown merchants involved. So each block will have somebody who has their business on that street who will be a liaison to the vendors and to the musicians. Idea. There'll be a place where you can go plug in if you need amplification as a musician, or you're having trouble setting up your table and you need some help, you go find that block captain. And that person kind of keeps an eye on what's going on their block to make sure people aren't blocking pedestrians, that you're not that you're safe and secure, and if you have questions, that's who you go to. Because we're an all-volunteer organization, and we're very small. There's only about 10, 15 of us that produce these each month. And not everybody can come down every time. So I'm running around. I need a Segway. I need one of those things that'll take me up and down the block so I can get to each location.
Yeah.
But we have, we want everybody to have a good time. We want the vendors and the musicians to be successful and enjoy their evening. And we bring additional entertainment in the forms of large puppets that Ann Cubberly creates, these huge 15 feet tall monkeys, or the water woman that she has, or the big angel. I mean, they're fun and people get to see them and get their pictures taken with them. So we try to do something different all the time.
So I do want to talk more about the volunteers and the different types of volunteering activities.
Sure.
But I'd like to ask, is there any fee involved for an artisan to participate?
Not at all. If they are an original artisan, they're doing their own painting, photography, making their own candles, their own jewelry, all their own things, there's no fee for them. If you are a commercial enterprise like a real estate company or a healthcare institution and you'd like to have a table, you need to do something artsy while you're down there.
Yeah.
And they pay a fee of $25. So it's really affordable, obviously, because we can't guarantee that they're going to have 1,000 people come down and buy their product. So if I ask somebody to pay me $25 to come down and they don't sell anything all night long, they're going to walk away saying, was it really worth my time being a part of this? So we want them to come back. And in order to do that, we don't charge our artisans to do that.
So when someone like myself, who is not very artsy, but loves to participate and volunteer, what types of volunteer activities do you have?
There are a number. We are happy to get long-term or short-term volunteers. We know some people can only show up on the night of an event. That's fine, because I need people that'll walk up and down the street and hand the street map to everybody. So there's a program. On the front of it, it shows what portion of Main Street you're at and the different locations of where everything is. You open it up and it tells you exactly who and where those people are, so you know the name of the vendor and what they're selling. And then we have a place on the back for people to put advertisements, and those are paid advertisements, so that helps us to raise a little money so we can pay for the printed pieces. So we have somebody that walks around and hands that out to people, because some folks will know about it because they saw it in Facebook, they read it in the newspaper, they saw our flyer someplace. lawn signs and that kind of thing. So they're coming down. Some people just see the balloons flying as they go down the street,
Yeah.
and they'll stop. So they don't have any idea what they're getting to. So that's why it's nice to have people on the street handing out the flyers. We have people that help us get lawn signs out in various locations the few days prior to as a reminder to people that it's this Thursday night. Don't forget to come downtown. I need people that will help raise money. So we'll do maybe a fundraiser or help us sell ads to businesses and that kind of thing. We have a committee that meets every month to talk about what's going to come up and all the different ways that we can market, and then how we can encourage new people to come along, and then how we get young people involved. All of us on the committee are like 50, 60 years old. We're not going to be doing this forever. We need to bring in a new generation of young people who are organizers and marketers and social media gurus, people that will help get the word out prior to,
Yeah.
and then also be on the street, putting it up on Instagram, tweeting,
Tweeting?
not twitting, tweeting to people. I'm constantly on Facebook, so I'm doing Facebook all night long. I'll
Yeah.
put it on Facebook Live and walk up and down the street so people know where I am right
Oh,
then
you
and
should
there.
have a big sign so people know they're on Facebook Live.
Exactly.
I bet you get a lot of action.
Oh,
then.
absolutely. Even with Instagram and everything else, we're just having fun with all of it.
For something that you're not charging the artists, you're very well organized.
Thanks.
I am very impressed. And you're taking the actual information that they're providing with you, you're assigning the location, and then making a map.
Yep.
I love that idea.
Thanks.
I love that
Thanks.
idea.
Thanks.
So each month we were talking about how you have different activities,
Yes.
but you also partner with other organizations. And someone was telling me that you work with Pride Manchester.
Right.
What type of event is that?
Well, we talked a little bit about May. You know, that's for youth.
Yeah, that's
so
for
the
youth, yeah.
next month, June, is a traditional time in Manchester. It's called Pride in Manchester Week, and it's usually the first Saturday to second Saturday. So it's a week of events, and it starts with a big concert in Central Memorial Park.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, Sunday, is Art in the Park, so it's a big art exhibit, hundreds of artists and vendors and crafters and makers and all of that. And then the next week has, you know, on the weeknights, you'll have an evening with the Elks Club will be out doing a something about Flag Day, or the Boy Scouts will have an event going on. So there's lots of little things happening as well. And then the next week, Thursday, is Imagine Main Street. That's our big night. It's probably the biggest of all those. We'll probably have a couple thousand people downtown.
Wow.
And on a Thursday night, that's a pretty big deal. We have a horse-drawn wagonette that goes up and down the street and takes people for a ride, and they love that. And we usually get somebody that's a musician to sit on the wagon and perform while people are going along. Loads of things to do. Food vendors on the street, again, musicians and artisans and the whole bit. And the very last day of Pride Manchester Week is the Friday after our event, and that's a senior dance. So at the senior center, they'll have different kinds of band, small band or DJ with music, and the seniors all dance, and they have a blast. But what's the fun part is they invite young people to come from the high school to come down and dance with them. So these young kids are learning how to do waltz and jitterbug and some of the older dances that they may not have ever seen before. And it's really very sweet seeing seniors and high school kids just having a great time together. It's very sweet, and that, again, is free. Everything, all these events that we're talking about are free and open to the public.
So I was just thinking, a friend of mine, she's really involved with the National Honor Society.
Ah.
So high school students who are looking for volunteer hours and looking for ways to get involved with their own personal interests in combining their art, music with National Honor Society.
Yeah.
So that might be a great project for them to jump on.
We would love them to become committee members. And again, we don't want to frighten them by thinking, oh my gosh, it's all this hard work. We can talk to them about what their talents are and what their interest is.
Yes.
And maybe they're good writers and they can help write press releases and get information out. Maybe they're artists and they can help us with flyers. Maybe they just like to do organizational type things. Maybe they want to recruit other young people to be helpful and to do something during our evening. But we do actually work with Cheney Tech and their arts honor group, and they always have a table, and they're always doing some fun art project
Yeah.
during the night. So it'd be great to get other kids from other schools. We welcome that, absolutely.
I'd love to see that myself.
Yeah.
So what would you be doing in like the other months in July? You mentioned August already, so July, what type of?
Right. July will be in the park. So we have one band that performs for the entire night, and the band is cover to cover, and they're a fabulous band. They play all kinds of cover music.
Yes.
And so what we do is we put them up on this on this large platform that's part of Central Memorial Park, and then all the vendors will be along the sidewalk, so that people can bring their own, chairs and blankets, and they can sit down and enjoy the music and get up and go visit the vendors during the evening. So it's just a fun night in Central Memorial Park. And then August, we focus on volunteers. So we offer opportunity for any volunteer group, whether it's, a fraternal organization like Unico, or it's a civic organization like the Rotary Club, or a kids group like CAST, who does the theater group, Little Theater of Manchester. All different volunteer groups can come and put a table out and share with people what their organization does and what kind of volunteer opportunities they have. And we'll mix those up with our regular crafters and photographers and musicians. So it's like just a wonderful night for volunteers.
And how do you wrap up the year in September?
Oh boy, that's the biggie.
That's the biggie?
Steampunk. Most people don't get what steampunk is. I think they hear the word punk and they think it's like punk rock.
Yes, you're right. There is a misconception.
There really is.
Yes.
Steampunk is like the Wild Wild West meets Queen Victoria.
Yeah.
So it's this really cool fashion and very much related to gears and the industrial age. And they wear corsets and frilly skirts and lace-up boots, and the guys wear top hats and beautiful vests of brocade and stuff. So the fashion's gorgeous. The music is a lot of fun too. It's very normal music. There's nothing like hard, dark rock. Nothing like that. It's just a different play on the way music is done. And beautiful art, and it's just a lot of fun. So one of our committee members, Dave Carlson, and his wife, Linda, are very much into steampunk, so they coordinate the whole thing. And they reach out to all their steampunk friends, and they bring in all kinds of the coolest music and art forms and jewelry and clothing and everything else you can imagine. It's just a blast.
It sounds wonderful. I love that you're bringing so many different people into the community. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up?
Just that, we're again a small group, so we're always looking for volunteers, and there is a volunteer sign-up form on our website as well, which is information. I'm going back to information again, imaginemainstreet.com. And we do have a very active Facebook page. You can reach us through that as well. And we're always looking for funding to help support what we do, because we do try to do everything for free.
Right.
So we're looking for ads. If there's a business that would like to be associated with us, we're glad to take a business card size ad, or we can make you a specific sponsor for one particular night. So if you have an interest in the July party in the park and you want to be, really focused, you'll be on the front page of the map, and we'll get you onto social media and all kinds of other things on our website and all of that.
What a great way to use your advertising dollars, keeping it local.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for tuning in for another episode of CVC Interviews. I encourage you to please visit us and like us on Facebook. Also, Imagine Main Street has some wonderful things on their webpage, imaginemainstreet.com, or visit their webpage to find out more. Thank you again, and have a good night.